Him and Lot went too. Abram was 75 years old at that time. He took his wife Sarah, his nephew Lot, and all his wealth, the cattle and the slaves he had gotten in Haran, and finally arrived in Canaan. Traveling through Canaan, they came to a place near Shechem and set up camp beside the oak at Morah. This area was inhabited by the Canaanites at that time. Then Jehovah appeared to Abram and said, I am going to give this land to your descendants. And Abram built an altar there to commemorate Jehovah's visit. This whole thing was set up by God to see whether Abraham would obey him. Now, this is what was amazing to me. Stay with me. Imagine, Abraham was 75 years old when God by grace chose him. Ironically, the same age I am now. Hello? Know then that age is not a factor, but rather the hiccup is the seeking of, the trusting of right thinking. That's the key. For it is right thinking, righteousness that makes you, me, the friend of God. I got to change my way of thinking. So by faith, when he was called by God, Abraham obeyed God by going to a place which he was to receive as an inheritance, and he went not knowing where he was going. Hebrews chapter 11, verse 8. Abraham is introduced to us at the end of Genesis 11. So from Genesis 11:27 to Genesis 25:11, we get episodes from his life. Not every episode can be connected to a specific year, but some can. And I found in my research these 10 events where his age can be known explicitly and implicitly. Listen, at age 75, Abraham lived in the land of Canaan, Genesis 12. At age 85, he took Hagar as a wife, Genesis 16:3. At age 86, Ishmael was born to him by Hagar, Genesis 16:16. At age 99, he was circumcised, Genesis 17:24. At age 99, again, he was visited by three strangers. Sodom and Gomorrah appears. At age 100, Isaac was born to him by Sarah, Genesis 21. At the age of 103, giving approximately 3 years for Isaac's weaning, Abraham sent away Ishmael and Hagar, Genesis 21. At age 137, Abraham buried his wife, who died at 127 years old. At age 140, Abraham's son, Isaac and Rebekah, were married, Genesis 24, 25, 20. At age 175, Abraham died, Genesis 25, 7. So then from Genesis 12 through 25, the narratives span Abraham's life from age 75 to 175. In other words, he lived to be 100 years old. I think, though, it's important for us to see that even the friend of God had flaws. First, he sent Hagar away. Genesis 21. He arrived in the promised land of Canaan, and instead of continuing to trust in God, he fled to Egypt. Genesis 12:10 through 13, lied about Sarah. She was so beautiful, he was scared that the king was going to kill her over him. What we can learn, though, about God here is this, is that he does not try to cover up the sins of his own. What he does is throw the cover off so that we can enter into a relationship with him. Today, I want to close our time with God and Abraham. What I see as the greatest trial of Abraham's faith, found in Genesis 22. Yeah. When God asked him to sacrifice Isaac. The greatest test comes down to this for us all. Do we want God for God, or do we want God for what he can do for us? Listen, God said this to Abraham. Abraham, Take now your son, your only son, whom you love, and go to the land of Moriah and offer him there as a burnt offering on one of the mountains of which I shall tell you. Abraham rose early in the morning, saddled his donkey, took 2 of his young men with him and Isaac his son. And he split the wood for the burnt offering and arose and went to the place of which God had told him. On the 3rd day, Abraham lifted his eyes and saw the place afar off. Abraham said to his young men, "Stay here with the donkey, the lad, and I will go yonder and worship, and we will come back to you." Abraham took the wood of the burnt offering, laid it on Isaac his son, and he took the fire in his hand and a knife, and the 2 of them went together. But Isaac spoke to Abraham, his father, and said, my father. And he said, Here I am, my son. And he said, Look, the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb for a burnt offering? And Abraham said, my son, God will provide for himself the lamb for a burnt offering. So the 2 of them went together. They came to the place of which God had told them. Abraham built an altar, placed the wood in order, bound Isaac, his son, and laid him on the altar and upon the wood. And Abraham stretched out his hand and took the knife to slay his son. But the angel of the Lord called to him from heaven and said, Abraham, Abraham. So he said, Here I am. And he said, Do not lay your hand on the lad or do anything to him, for now I know that you fear God, since you have not withheld your son, your only son, from me. Genesis chapter 22, verses 2 through 12. Middle school today has been all about understanding the significance of righteousness, imputed righteousness. Just a word that means accredited righteousness, aka thinking right. Listen to me. For me to think right requires that I question everything I think I know about God. That's simple, but yet that complex. Less complex, though, when I believe, when I am spiritually conscious enough to accept what the Bible says rather than what somebody erroneously teaches me. I have to know it for myself. And part of the process of knowing it for yourself is application of what you know. So then the way I think must change because I'm challenged. There must be an application of truth by the recipients of this truth, of which happens only in Earth School. When you recognize, when you realize this, then life becomes a spiritual laboratory where the whole studied is you. As you and God becomes friends, become one. Just remember the words of David in Psalms 37:25. Whenever you're going through something, whenever you're wondering, God is always working on you. God is always trying to deliver you from you, always trying to show you you. Quit looking at what's wrong with others and just begin to look at others as being an opportunity to see what's wrong with you. David said it. Hear it again. I have been young, and now I am old. Yet I've not seen the righteous forsaken. If I think right, I will do right. May I say that again? If I think right, I will do right. When I do that, I don't have to beg for bread because God will take care of all of my needs. The whole idea behind Earth School then is to get to know yourself to see what God sees, to begin doing it God's way. And when you get to that point in your life, when you think you've gone as far as you can go, just remember Abraham. Think about those who have been willing to pay the price, leaving everything behind. The most moving part of that episode there on the mountain with Isaac is Isaac never questioned his father, but about how they were going to get the lamb. Otherwise, can you imagine today a father binding his son? No. Laying him on an altar? No. Following through with what God had directed him to do? No. But Isaac had seen the relationship with Abraham and God, and he knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that God and Abraham were one. So the question, do you want to be his friend? Do you want to get to know God for yourself? Do you want him for who he is or for what he can do for you? The choice is yours. Now, into the stillness. Trust me again. Close your eyes. Experience this. Experience this Rhema. Experience this Logos. Feel it. Feel this, beloved. Feel it within your withinness. Whole objective in worship